No. Oh, I.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting of the City of Bloomington Council to order. If everyone could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Kearns. Here. Councilmember Bolin.
Here.
Councilmember Dannenberger.
Here.
Councilmember Becker.
Here.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Here.
Councilmember Ward. Here. Councilmember Lee.
Here.
Councilmember Crumpler.
Here.
Mayor Millawample.
Here. We're going to move on to recognitions and appointments, and I have a couple of proclamations to read. And we are going to start with a proclamation for AmeriCorps Week. It's a pretty long one, so bear with me, contain your excitement. A lot of whereases. This is going to be fun. Whereas 30 years ago, Congress established AmeriCorps, formerly the Corporation for National and Community Service, to unite national service programs under one agency, create service opportunities that strengthen communities and expand pathways to education, careers, and civic participation for those who serve. And whereas service is a hallmark of the American character and has the unique ability to bring people of all backgrounds together in common cause to meet our country's most pressing challenges. And whereas AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps seniors programs provide opportunities for 200,000 Americans annually to serve their country through service at nonprofits, schools, public agencies, community, and faith-based organizations across the country. And whereas national service represents a robust public-private partnership that invests in community solutions and leverages non-federal resources to strengthen community impact and increase the return on taxpayer dollars. And whereas in Illinois, more than 9,900 AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps seniors volunteers of diverse ages and backgrounds help to meet local needs at more than 1,100 locations in the state. by responding to disasters, monitoring children and youth, supporting veterans, and military families, fighting the opioid epidemic, restoring the environment and increasing access to justice. And whereas AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps seniors volunteers encourage collaboration and partnerships, leveraging millions of volunteers in service and acquiring the support of Business Foundation and other local partners to increase the effectiveness of their initiatives. And whereas AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps Seniors programs strengthen bridge building skills by bringing people together from different backgrounds, generations, and geographic locations to address critical issues facing the country, forge relationships, cultivate mutual respect, and help build resilient and thriving communities. And whereas volunteering prepares AmeriCorps members for future careers and improves the mental well-being of AmeriCorps senior volunteers, and their commitment to service reflects the dedication and patriotism of those who serve. And whereas through their service, AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps seniors volunteers improve the lives of their families, strengthen their communities, and foster civic engagement in the city of Bloomington as a whole. And whereas AmeriCorps Week is an opportunity to recognize the dedication and commitment of 200,000 members and volunteers who serve each year, the more than 1.25 million AmeriCorps alumni and millions of AmeriCorps seniors volunteers and their community partners, as well as to encourage more Americans to follow their footsteps in service. Now, therefore, I, Mboka Malambwe, Mayor of the City of Bloomington, on behalf of the Bloomington City Council, do hereby designate March 10 through 16, 2024 as AmeriCorps Week in Bloomington and urge citizens to thank AmeriCorps members and alumni and AmeriCorps seniors volunteers for their service and to find their own ways to give back to their communities. I wonder if you're clapping for me because I'm done with the whereases, or if you're clapping for AmeriCorps members. But I do believe that we have several AmeriCorps members who are here. So if you could.
Yeah, if you're an AmeriCorps member or an AmeriCorps alum or support an AmeriCorps program, we'd like you to stand to be recognized. Yay.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your service.
Yeah, and if I could just say a few words,
Yeah,
sorry.
sure.
For my full-time job, I direct an AmeriCorps funded program. And so I asked the mayor if he would recognize AmeriCorps Week this week. So thank you so much. I know the proclamation was really long. And if tonight's the first night you're hearing about AmeriCorps, I encourage you to go find out more about what AmeriCorps does across across the city, the state, and across the entire country, excuse me. Although the proclamation give you a lot of information. I know all of the hard work and training and patience and sacrifice and things that our members give to serve their community. And so I can only imagine it's the same for any other AmeriCorps program across the country. And so I just want to thank those who are here tonight and all AmeriCorps members in general for their service. And if I could just share one bit of information, so it kind of comes more home to Bloomington. Since 1994, which is when AmeriCorps was created, more than 870 Bloomington, Illinois residents have served approximately 800,000 hours and have earned education awards totaling more than $2 million. So there's a lot of money that AmeriCorps gives to communities, especially ours. So thanks for giving us the time to talk about this. And thank you so much to all the AmeriCorps members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the city manager just mentioned to me that since he was a city manager in Washington and where they had a tornado, and a lot of AmeriCorps members helped with that effort of recovery. So definitely, wonderful people, and we're very thankful for your service. Now, is someone here to take the proclamation? No?
Can I make Jackson do it?
We're gonna have, yeah, there you go. You're a volunteer. You've been voluntold. Come on up.
If there's any other, I mean, I'm just being selfish because of my program, but if anyone wants to come up and accept it and get a little picture with the mayor, do it. If you stood earlier, go.
This is your once in a lifetime to get a picture with the mayor, you know, it's like I would think that everybody would just kind of rush to the dais. Yes, thank you. If anybody can tell me how many whereases there were in that proclamation, I'll give you $100 right now. Nope. Nope. So we're gonna move on to the next proclamation, a proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month as requested by the Administration Department. Uh, Whereas every child deserves to grow up in a nurturing environment, free from abuse, neglect, violence, and endangerment of any kind. And whereas statistics of children who are abused and neglected escalate each year. Last year, Illinois had 35,244 indicated cases. And whereas the effects of child abuse are felt by whole communities and must be addressed by the entire community, and whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created among the courts, social service agencies, schools, religious organizations, law enforcement, and the business community. And whereas parents care and share a prevention program of Bright Points offering positive parenting resources and alternatives to help break the cycle of abuse is sponsoring a Blue Bow campaign to heighten awareness of the need to support families. And whereas all citizens should become more aware of child abuse within the community and to become involved in its prevention and supporting parents to raise their children in a safe and nurturing environment. Therefore, I, Mboka Malambwe, Mayor of Bloomington, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Bloomington, Illinois, and call upon all the citizens to increase their participation in efforts to prevent child abuse, thereby strengthening the communities in which we live.
Mayor, we do have three representatives present. If we could call forth Dorothy Davis, David Lewis, and Marco Shagoya to come forward. Thank you.
Awesome. Would you like to say a few words? And then I'm gonna bring back our folks from AmeriCorps afterwards, if you'd like to say a few words as well. But it doesn't sound like you guys want to say a few words, no? Oh, yeah, okay, all right, awesome. Right there, front at the microphone, yes.
Direct, I'm new to this. I just want to thank the city of Bloomington for supporting our child abuse campaign. It's really serious and we're really focused on poverty, this year because it is a really big concern and our community does an amazing job of working toward trying to help. Just the public gets involved, our mayor gets involved, you guys get involved, and we're always trying to come up with a plan to make it better. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, to our friends from AmeriCorps, would you like to come up and say a few words? You're all right, you said? Does that mean you're all right to come up or? Yeah?
I told them that they wouldn't have to talk.
Okay, that was the deal. Okay, all right, that's fine. We won't make you. That's okay. But thank you, thank you. I think the next item is recognition and board commission appointment as requested by the administration department.
Thank you. We would just like to recognize Isola Tyus to the Citizens Beautification Committee.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Isola. Is she here? No? Okay, all right. She's out there beautifying your community already. We're gonna move on to public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
So we received one emailed public comment. It came to us from Layla Cheek. It was provided to council earlier today. And then we have 3 people registered to speak. After your statement, we'll start with John Morrissey, and then to follow will be Scott Steimling.
Okay, sounds good. Public comment is an opportunity for speakers to provide their views and feedback to the city council. It is also an opportunity for the city council to listen and hear diverse points of view. To maximize the impact of public comment and show respect for the expression of all views, speakers should maintain civility and focus on city issues. Speakers must identify themselves for the record, but are not required to give their address. Each speaker is given the floor for 3 minutes, and the council does not respond or engage in debate. Any speaker that engages in threatening or disorderly behavior will be deemed out of order and their time seized. Thank you. Let's go first.
Mayor and city council members, I'm here tonight because over a year ago, I was taken on an insurance check for over $7,000 from a contractor on a home damage of hail. And I can't get, well, last fall, I went up to the police department to talk to a detective. Well, the woman behind that piece of glass basically refused to let me talk to a detective and said, that's a civil fraud case. You got to go to small claims court. This is beyond small claims court. There's too many people involved in it. It mainly a father and son. It's an out-of-town contractor, and they are incorporated, so you can't sue them for anything what the company is. They've taken care of that. And there's another person involved in it that's a contract was through a public adjuster contract. And my insurance company told me to call him and ask for my money. He said, I have nothing to do with that. It's his contract. There's somebody owes me money, and if I can't get money, I want somebody in prison, and I want it investigated. And the police department, from what I got up there, they don't care. How do I get something done? Does the city council have something to control over that police department to get in touch with me to get some information? I'd like an answer on that. Well, I'm going to leave my number. I don't know, is the chief of police here tonight? Oh, you are? Well, I would like to have it investigated. You're gonna have to speak up, 'cause my hearing's not that good. Okay. That's all I got to say then for now.
Okay. Next,
Next up, we have Scott Steimling, and then the last speaker will be Serena Fish.
Scott Steimling, Ward 5. My concern is, again, today, the city roads are terrible. There are potholes, and I mean holes, big holes, that could swallow a car up. The storm inlets are dangerous. I would like to know when in the world they're going to redo all the roads, bring them up to standards, raise those inlets. There is no curb line in places along that street, and I'd like to know when it's going to be addressed. You know, the city council, they always find ways to spend the money, but they don't take care of the infrastructure. And there was one person out walking one night. I just happened to be outside, and they said, these streets and sidewalks are terrible. I said, don't tell me, you're preaching to the choir. I would like to see, Tim, if you have to get down there, do it yourself, then maybe we need to have some talks later.
thank you. Next.
All right, last up is Serena Fish.
Hello, I'm Serena Fish, Ward 6. West Side neighbors, Miller Park neighbors, the Police Review Board. But today, I am an election judge. So we're open till 7 o'clock tonight. So you can still vote if we get out of here in time. Again, it's really important that you all vote, especially for local. Sometimes it's beyond us, the higher you go, but every vote counts. And if you've been around in this area for a while, literally, things have been decided by less than 100 votes. So please vote. The other thing I want to talk to you about is the 10th city. I know I've stood up here before, but it's becoming bigger and bigger and worse and worse. There are more people there now. In talking to people at Mission Mart, talking to people at some of the other places around there. Again, I'm administrator for West Side Neighbors. People are very upset that nothing is being done and it's growing. And it's really, today was kind of a warm day and it's getting bigger and bigger. And it's not even like warm yet. And the problem is most of the people that are in the group, for whatever reason, choose not to live inside or have been put out of where they are. And basically, I'm asking that instead of enabling these people to stay out and harass people in the neighborhood or the seniors, you've got 2 senior citizens places right there, Wood Hill and Lincoln. You've got playground across the street, playground on the other side. You've got a school 2.5 blocks down. It's like, please do something about helping these people get off the street. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Now we're gonna move on to the consent agenda. And is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as
Okay.
presented.
Motion by Councilmember Bolin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Becker. who's back in the fray as a seconder.
Councilmember Crumpler, how would you like to vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The item passes. There are no nays to announce. And now we're going to move on to the regular agenda and with a presentation of the fiscal year 2025 proposed budget as requested by the Finance Department. I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Gleason for some introductory remarks before the star appearance of Mr. Rathbun.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and to the community. Very brief opening comments, but as we approach what is tentatively scheduled as an April 8th council meeting to approve the FY25 budget. And again, for us, the budget cycle is May 1 to April 30th. This is the largest budget that the city's ever had. Scott and his team, made up of the department directors, do an excellent job of bringing that material forward. And again, and I know I'm repeating myself, but in case there's new people viewing this, this is a process for us that starts almost immediately after a budget goes into effect. And we reach out to the directors formally. It's a process that we have internally, August, September of every year. So we've just completed that first quarter of any given fiscal year. And tonight, after several meetings, after several presentations by Scott, this one is the actual proposed budget. On March 25th, we'll have a public hearing regarding the FY25 budget and then move towards the April 8th adoption of that budget. And we're going to keep that April 8th council agenda very thin. Not expecting a lot of conversation at that point, but this is truly, I believe, a budget worth celebrating. So, Scott, going to turn it to you.
Thank you, City Manager Gleason, Mayor, Council, Community. This is the fourth of, I guess I've been saying 5, but it's actually going to be 6 if you count the public hearing presentations regarding the FY 2025 budget. So, the challenge, how do you break down a $330 million budget and put it in perspective for the community without being too repetitive? But, I think there's benefit in repetition. Tonight, we're going to be going through a lot of the same slides. I'm going to move a lot faster than I have in the past. There's no changes from those prior numbers. But, again, the main objective is for us to be good stewards of the taxpayer funds and present a budget that really addresses the needs of the community. So as City Manager mentioned, largest budget ever, almost $332 million. While there's competing interests, I've mentioned before, this is a budget emphasizing public safety, roads and sidewalks, dependable infrastructure, clean water has been a discussion as of late, and public well-being, our parks and rec, culture and entertainment. So you can see there, we have a $332 million budget. It's up almost $42 million over the prior year. Down in the capital projects line, we have almost $89 million in capital projects incorporated into this budget. And that makes up almost $19 million, the increase in capital projects over prior year. And the remainder of the difference, without going through the numbers that I have in the past few presentations, really, it's made up of inflation, public safety. We've added we're adding 9 staff. We take a future look too when we're doing the budget. So not only do we have needs for FY25 incorporated in this budget, but like specifically with the fire department, we've mentioned how we've got such a lead time on equipment orders. We have $2.8 million in FY25 budget that's really for equipment that we're going to need out in 26 and 27. So taking an eye what the community needs, to provide those services that we're committed to doing. And then, from the general fund, $143 million. increase of 14 million. Public safety is a part of the general fund. So the adds to public safety for police and fire, those equipment needs and inflation are making up that difference as well. Next slide, please. So speaking of growth, this is an exhibit we created a couple of years ago. Essentially, we take our gross budget and then we net it down for non-recurring activity like projects. Capital projects can really vary from year to year, and then some other non-recurring items that we can identify throughout the different cycles. And really what this is showing is from three different perspectives that our growth rate since 2016 has been, between 3.5% and 4%. So we have a view on salary and benefits budgets. That's the bottom one. That's 3.56%, on a cost per population. And then just as a net overall budget, that 3.99%. Next slide, please. So the citywide, how are we financially structured? Well, we kind of have a complex financial structure of 29 funds. This shows most of the 29 funds. We did group some of them together. The debt funds and the TIF funds are grouped together. But you can see here, this is an exhibit showing our delta from year to year. That's the almost $42 million. The general fund being $14 million of that. Public safety, we had big increases in the equipment, as I mentioned, moving forward some of the fire equipment purchases. The general fund, the $143 million, that's 43% of the total overall budget. And then moving down to about 2/3 down the way, the water fund, the sewer fund, stormwater, we have large increases there and mostly related to capital expenditures. And if you group what we refer to as our enterprise funds, that's water all the way down through the arena. That's $91 million of our $332 million, and that's 27%. So the general fund, 43%, enterprise funds, 27% of the budget, makes up a large piece of the overall citywide budget. Next slide, please. Major tax revenues. This is an exhibit, not exactly like this, but we review every month. Wait till proposed budget before I get a frog in my throat here. And I left my water back there. So we've been trending higher over the last couple of years. Stimulus in the economy, inflation. We've been conservative. Oh, look at this. Thank you. Appreciate that. We've been conservative in our budgeting, even though we've seen those trends this year. In discussions with administration, my budget manager, Chris Tomerlin, and myself presented that, we go ahead and take some of those major tax revenues up. So year over year from 24 to 25 adopted, and we're increasing almost $11 million. So most of this is going to be reflected in the general fund, about 8.9 million of that. Again, inflation, I did a calculation, inflation in the general fund accounts for about $5 million of the gross. So of that 11 million, almost half of it's eaten up with inflation. And then we had a public safety pension increase, year over year contribution increase of 2.4 million. So between inflation and the 2.4 in pensions, that's 7.4 of the 10.5 increase. That's just kind of being utilized with those two big categories. And then I highlighted this the last time, but I will do it one more time. The dollars that are restricted for our asphalt and concrete fund, it's 10% of our home rule sales tax. So you can see we have $30 million budgeted for home rule. So $3 million is going to be allocated of that 30 million to asphalt and concrete. And then of course, 100% of our local motor fuel tax, 4.2 million. So between the two of those, we have $7.2 million in dedicated or restricted revenues for asphalt and concrete. Yet we are attempting to achieve a goal of $10 million being utilized in that fund. So we're making that up with the other general fund subsidies to the asphalt and concrete. Next slide, please. So the rest of the financial structure we've been showing is the citywide income statement. So these are the revenues, and then we show the general fund. So I'm not going to highlight everything like I have in the last couple of presentations, but I will highlight that we are targeting use of reserves. So use of the cash that the city has accumulated in different funds of about $44 million. So you can see 43.6 million. Now, a significant portion of that is from the state motor fuel tax fund, 27.8 million. Some of those large projects, Councilmember Bowling's looking at me, keep getting bumped out, but I think there's a good chance those are going to occur in 25. We got them budgeted. So almost $28 million use of reserves for that fund. And then along with that, $9 million coming out of the general fund for reserves. So making strategic decisions, utilizing those reserves best as possible. We still have some large pending decisions to make for the community, that we've talked about, fire stations, public works garage, downtown streetscape, but want to be strategic in the use of those reserves. Next slide, please. Citywide expenditures, salary, $6.3 million increase. You can see the notes there, staff adds, I mentioned the 9 in public safety. Between the 24 budget and 25 budget, we did have the 1 deputy city manager. We've added 1 for water and some other miscellaneous adds for a staff count. But then, we do have just normal increases for performance, and then the union contracts, 11 union contracts. I've mentioned this before, but I want to highlight this again. In the budget, we budget down to the staff per the FTE level. So my salary is in the budget as the exact amount with an assumed performance increase for me. I think we use 3.5%, but for union staff, those individuals are in our system, and then the wage tables associated with that union are incorporated into the budget going into next year. So there's a lot of detail that's in the budget, and of course, there's a lot of projections that we have to utilize as well. And then you can see capital expenditures went up by that $23 million almost, and that's the 18.8 plus equipment of 4.9. Equipment, a big chunk was in the general fund, and I mentioned related to the fire department and advancing forward some of those equipment purchases. Next slide, please. General fund revenues, use of reserves, 8.7 million, a non-recurring equipment, about 3 million. We're doing lots of capital projects. We're addressing some needs at the fire department. We're setting aside some dollars for, police department, excuse me. We set aside some dollars for land purchase for an additional fire station. So we're pushing some money into our capital improvement fund. And then you can see here with taxes, there's an $8.9 million increase that, is related to that exhibit that we just went through, where we're capturing that trend that we've been seeing over the last few years in our budget. We've been conservative up to this point. We still think we're being conservative, but we're capturing that increase in our budget for 25. Next slide, please. General fund expenditures, salaries. I won't repeat, that's related to the public safety ads and other staff, and then performance increases and the wage tables related to the union contracts. Capital expenditures, you can see we've captured the 2.7 increase for fire related to fire truck and 2 ambulances. And then in other intergovernmental expense, $3.4 million increase. That's related to the $2.4 million increase in public safety contributions as calculated by our actuary. Next slide, please. This is a general fund by function. Went through this last presentation. This highlights in totals by function for the general fund. So you can see the public safety, been mentioning public safety a lot of emphasis on public safety for the community. $69 million of the $143 million total general fund budget is related to public safety. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight is that we added this section on the right side of the screen a couple of years ago that shows the offset in revenues related to some of our categories. We always talk about expenditures. Typically, we can run through the revenues, but we don't show them by departments. And so here with Parks and Rec, we have $15.5 million in total budgeted expenditures, but the net after their fees, for the zoo and program fees is 11.4 million. Next slide, please. So total capital projects, almost $89 million. It's a $19 million increase. We have had projects roll forward from the prior year, most of that in the state motor fuel tax. I would encourage the community. I'm going to be going through some of the resources available online, but we did have the department heads run through every single project in detail at the February Committee of the Whole. So if anyone wants to hear from the department heads and the needs and how we're trying to address certain needs within the community from these projects, I encourage everyone to watch that Committee of the Whole presentation by those department heads. Next slide, please. How are we doing on time? Doing okay? So a final view. We discussed this exhibit last month. It's $330 million, $89 million of that is in capital projects. So even grouping those to provide some additional perspective on our budget, $43 million being spent on streets and sidewalks when you incorporate the total $10 million in asphalt and concrete plus the $33 million in state motor fuel tax. $34 million in infrastructure, so for water, sewer, stormwater, and then $11.4 million in taking care of what we have, facility maintenance, parks, rec, taking care of the buildings that we own already, making sure they don't go into further disrepair, and making sure that our staff can work in an environment that they deserve. And then one additional perspective here. So the community direct services. So these are services that every resident feels. So, everyone needs water, sewer, storm, garbage. Everyone, needs, hopefully not frequently, but this public safety service projects. So that's 215 million. And then kind of a community support number related to our IDA, CDBG, McLean County Health, which will be $3 million, 10% of our home rule sales tax. JM Scott Connect Transit is 7.8. So $223 million in total direct services and support. So 67% of the total budget related to that. And then the remainder, if you group it into categories, parks and rec, kind of that quality of life, BCPA, arena, library, 27.7 million. Administration, economic community development, fleet maintenance, facilities, parking, almost $38 million. And then we have kind of this is the catch-all category: insurance, debt funds, TIF, other transfers. I didn't highlight it on the fund, the citywide by fund, but we have $20 million in our internal service funds, our insurance funds, where we pay our insurance, but all those costs are actually captured in the department level as well. So it's kind of a duplicate in our budget, and that's half of that 43 million. Next slide, please. Please, not piece. So what I really wanted to emphasize tonight were the resources available. Of course, we have the videos of the presentations that I've provided and the departments that have provided, but there's a lot of information online. The two budget books, they can be kind of intimidating, but I'm going to show a title page here in a second, or excuse me, a table of contents. But book one is a budget overview and general fund. So this provides a lot of year over year on total expenditures, revenues. There's narratives, and the both books line, we have narratives for every department. A narrative is a description of what the department does, the funding sources, the challenges, what they accomplished in the prior year. So you're going to see one of those for finance, admin, the clerk's office. Every department in the entire city has a narrative with the budget following that. So budget one, overview, general fund, budget two, other funds, debt, capital improvements, all this online. And then under additional resources, we have the budget video series. So how we pull together the budget. It's narrated by our own Chris Tomerlin. It talks about the financial structure of the city and how we go through the budget process. It's pretty interesting. I can't remember how long it takes, but if you like watching videos, I encourage people to watch that. And then we have our annual report, our audit. So the audit would be, might put you to sleep, but there's a section in the back called the statistical section. And we went over a lot of that information in the last presentation that shows how many police runs, how many fire runs, how many golf courses we have. All this information is in the statistical section of the audit. So there's some good information in there besides just all those crunchy numbers. So it's city website, departments/finance. Next slide, please. So the budget books, 700 pages of budget information. So what do you do with that? Well, this is an example of what's online. It's online now. The proposed budget's online. This is budget book 2. This shows the cover page and the table of contents. And so, I encourage the community to look at the table of contents and see what interests you. And there's hyperlinks within the table of contents. So if you want to look at debt, you can click on the hyperlink and it'll take you to those debt schedules. If you want to see the detail worksheets, which we're going to show briefly here in a second, as more of an example, as opposed to going through the data, you click on it, it takes you right to the detail worksheet, detail sheet on each project. So I encourage the community to just kind of go on those budget books, play around, see what information is available. Next slide, please. So this is page 55 of budget book number 2. It shows our general obligation debt by payment schedule. It shows at the bottom what the bonds are for by category, the arena, taxable, tax exempt, ice center, et cetera. So if you're interested in our debt and when it's going to roll off, that's in there. We also have information on our debt per capita compared to our peers. I won't comment on our peers right now, but you can go in there and see debt per capita per our peers like normal, et cetera, in the budget book. Next slide, please. And then we saw this exhibit as a slimmed down version of this exhibit during the committee of the whole. This is our projects for all funds. The information that we didn't show during that presentation is out to the right that shows what are the funding sources for these projects. So if we're targeting borrowing, it'll show there. If we're thinking we can get a grant, it's going to show in the grants funding column. So this is a state motor fuel tax. It shows those projects kind of split up about how we're approaching those. And this is on page 155 of the budget book. There's a hyperlink for that. Next slide, please. And then this is kind of a combination of 2 pages, a detailed project sheet on pages 162 and 163 for the Fox Creek Road and Bridge improvements. So we put there's pictures in there, there's diagrams, there's also a table with the actual budget numbers scheduled in it as well. So if you want more information on projects, you can watch the video for the committee of the whole. You can go into the budget books and read about each individual project in the budget book. Next slide, please. And to summarize, the city manager mentioned, we'll do the public hearing here in a couple weeks on March 25th. There'll be a notice. It's supposed to be in the Panagraph tomorrow about that hearing, and then the final adoption on April 8th. And again, at the bottom, it's just another reminder. All this information's on the website. You can go to the finance page, annual budget, and the proposed budget is right on the annual budget page. You don't have to drill into it. It's right there. Next slide, please. And questions, comments.
Well, thank you very much, Scott. Wonderful presentation. We all are gonna go through withdrawal, when it's all said and done, Definitely a lot of great information. I especially, I like that you put the emphasis on the budget books. Because those are, I find them to be fairly easily digestible. A lot of people tend to think that budgets are incredibly complicated and very hard to read, but I think this is really digestible for just about everyone. Now, pushing the video, I think you're going a little too far, But definitely great work, so really appreciate it. Do we have any questions from council?
I always have.
Okay, question for Councilmember Boland.
Yeah, this is just for edification for the community. Could you give me the percentage of property tax versus all other taxes? Is it like 12%, 15% comes in for property tax? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Well, if we're just kind of confining it to as a percentage of the major tax revenues.
Mhm.
So see if Chris were here, he can do math in his head, like on the
Okay.
spot. So 30 million out of 125. So 30 million out of 100 million, that's going to be 30%. So it's going to
Okay.
be a little less than somewhere between 25 and 30%.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay, doesn't look like we have any. Thank you very much, Scott. Okay. We are going to move on to the next item, which is a presentation of the Bloomington Police Department's 2023 annual report as requested by the police department. And I'm going to turn it over to Deputy City Manager Jeff Jurgens for initial introduction, and then we'll hear from Chief Symington.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This council puts a lot of money and a lot of resources into public safety. Tonight, through this report that you're going to hear from the Bloomington Police Department, you're going to see the fruits of all of that effort, the fruits of those expenditures. We've got a very good story to tell here in the city of Bloomington. The chief will talk about how our crime rates have gone down, and that's a very positive thing. And he'll talk about how they've done that. So without further ado, want to turn it over to Chief Symington, and then we'll come back to City Manager Gleason if he has any closing comments on this. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, elected officials, city manager, deputy city managers. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the efforts of the Bloomington Police Department in 2023. It is certainly an honor and a privilege to be before you and serve as your police chief. Next slide.
Fire keeps trying to sabotage the police chief's presentation.
You do have an extra minute up there, so technically your time hasn't started.
This might be a good time to do push-ups.
How many, Mayor?
Or
no.
cartwheels, Mayor, so you can practice for next year's parade. Because we were behind the tumblers.
Oh, yeah, that's right, that's right. Yes, I'm getting better at it, actually.
Well, I'll proceed with slide 2, and just to reiterate or share again, the mission of the Bloomington Police Department is to work in partnership with community members to enforce the law and improve or enhance the quality of life in this community. We have a workforce that I enjoy leading.
Sorry, if it's okay, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. They're having an IT issue and they do actually have the fire presentation up. So they were asking if it'd be okay if we swap the presentations and then we'll get yours going back up. I hate doing that,
That-
but then at least you'd have your PowerPoint to go along with if you'd like.
I think it's fine. It's fine if do you want to do that? Are you okay with that? This definitely looks like sabotage.
Your call. Okay, he'd like to go ahead and swap them. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay, no worries. It's Monday. Weird things happen on Mondays. Well, we are going to item C, a presentation of the Bloomington Fire Department's 2023 annual report and an update on department hiring as requested by the fire department. So I'm going to turn it over to Deputy City Manager Billy Tyus to introduce the item and then Chief Matheny.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And actually, it's not sabotage. We were just more well-prepared, so.
Ouch.
I'm just kidding. In any event, Mayor and Council, thank you for this opportunity. I think most, if not all of you, were able to attend a Fire Ops 101 event in September of 2023. And hopefully you got to see really the range of responsibilities that the fire department has. They do a lot outside of obviously fighting fires and ambulance service as well. In support of that work, the city manager said for us to set as a priority to make this a year of fire department with regards to us addressing some longstanding community needs. The department is almost completely under new leadership he's not new anymore, Chief Corey Matheny, Deputy Chiefs Mike Hartwig and Jason Greer, and also existing Deputy Chief Carl Reeb. And really, they've hit the ground running with regards to some really long-standing issues that are getting addressed, many of which the chief will talk about tonight. For example, the community has been talking for years now about how do we work to lower response times. We're going to be coming forward very, very soon with recommendations on how to do that, both through the location of potential new station, but also other technology that perhaps can help us to address those response times. Hiring, as an example, getting firefighter recruits is tough. It's a tough thing across the country, not just in Bloomington, obviously. Well, we made a real dent this winter with some changes that were made that are going to help us really to fill the vacancies that we have in place right now. So I don't want to really steal any of the chief's thunder. So I'll pass things to Chief Matheny, but we're really excited about some of the things that are going to be coming this year. Chief.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, City Manager Gleason, Deputy City Managers. Might sound like a broken record, but I'm always proud to sit here and talk to you and tell a story about the fire department. Very humble to be here, and it's always a little nerve wracking as I get my feet wet and I do this more often, but you're gonna hear this a little bit more often. This is another year for the record year for the fire department. We had a total of 13,618 calls of service. We've been experiencing about a 2.5% increase year over year for the last several years, and we saw a 10% increase as we were coming out of COVID. So we're kind of maintaining that momentum that we're getting busier, and it's based on the needs of the community and the needs of citizens that we're trying to reach. Next slide, please. So you can kind of read the quote there. You know, like I said, I'm extremely proud to be here, and I'm proud of the people that work for me. We've got a very talented workforce, and I can't speak enough about them. So beyond our emergency response efforts, this year we're actually engaged in improving the service delivery that we've done. So two areas of focus that Deputy City Manager touched on was improving some existing infrastructure that we had through supplementing and enhancing some existing equipment like our SCBAs, our self-contained breathing apparatus that most of you wear or got to wear during our Fire Ops event, and through the Stryker ALS 360 asset management program, where we were able to purchase some new life-saving equipment for ambulances or EMS providers. That's really had a direct positive impact on not only patient care, but also the morale of the department. The other area that we focused on was really reimagining our whole recruitment and hiring process. We identified several barriers that have hindered us in the past. We worked collaboratively with the local, the International Association of Firefighters, Local 49, and through some extraordinary recruiting efforts, through a great recruiting team, excellent job on the city recruiter and the HR department. We really did push forward and made some great strides in hiring, and we're looking to be fully staffed here in 2024. Looking at the future, we're committed to continuous improvement. We're going to be working on the strategic plan, bringing our department up to fully staffed, and also improving our response times by leveraging some existing technologies, new technologies, and also with any future station builds that we do, we need to make sure that's strategically located to make the most impact for our citizens. Next slide, please. So here's the mission of the fire department. You'd think it's generally about putting out fires, but we do a lot more than that. And we'll touch on some more of that as we move forward. But, we minimize the impacts of fires, medical emergencies, any natural man-made disasters, anything that someone calls 911 for and our counterparts in blue don't respond to, the fire department usually shows up to. We kind of become, unfortunately, a catch-all for any needs at the community that isn't police related. A lot of that's expanded over the years. Since 9/11, we've had Zika, avian flu, COVID, and now with the increasing demands of mental health services that are needed throughout the community, the department is looking at for active ways to not only respond to those incidents, but how do we help provide solutions and help better the lives of our citizens. With all those different things that came up, it's obvious that we need to be very specialized and we have a diverse education background in different disciplines that we need to stay competent in. And that's another area that we'll focus on here a little later. Next slide. Here's our current organizational chart. It's a little bit busy, but we currently have approved staffing of 36 members per shift. We've got some support staff underneath there, and every one of these people are highly talented, specially trained individuals. This organizational chart really hasn't changed a whole lot since 2008. Back around 2008, the private ambulance service that was in town here was getting ready to go out of business, which facilitated the need for us to expand what we did and start providing advanced level life support ambulances to the community. That required us to add a 4th ambulance that was now housed at Station 4 out by Miller Park. And with that reorganization of our department, we lost 1 fire apparatus every day, but it allowed us to staff all of our ambulances 24/7. Prior to that time, the 2 youngest people in the department, we called it a jump company. They would leave the fire apparatus, jump on the ambulance if ambulance call came in, and they would respond on that, leaving the fire apparatus not fully staffed if fire call came in. Vice versa, if fire call came in, we didn't have staffing for the ambulance. So it was a necessary adjustment, and we've done very well in meeting the needs of the city. But our call volumes has increased about 30% since 2008, and we're still meeting those needs with the same amount of staff we had back then. The one thing we noticed, there has been a change in that organizational chart. We did see retirement of 2 of our senior staff last year, Chief Eric West, Chief Deputy Flaherty. They were both exceptional leaders, great mentors, and they really helped train the next generation of our department. And a lot of them are here today. Next slide, please. So here's a look at fiscal year 25 proposed budget projects. We've got the replacement of a 100-foot aerial apparatus, and that's we've seen the price of that increase dramatically over the last several years with the supply chain issues and just the impact of everything pandemic related has had on not only the community, but the nation. We're replacing 2 other support vehicles, replacing 2 ambulances. We've got some station upgrades in there that we've approved here just recently. We're doing a kitchen remodel at Station 3 and just some other deferred maintenance things that need to be accomplished. Traffic preemption upgrades, that's what we're talking about for helping us better control traffic as we're responding on incident scenes. So the lights and sirens will be activated in the vehicle. Currently, there's a infrared strobe light, for lack of a better term, that's on top of the vehicles that communicates to some stoplights and changes the stoplights green for our way of traffic. It's not perfect and it doesn't cover the entire city. With what we're looking to do here in the future, going to more of a GPS-based system that it will communicate forward. It knows if you have a turn signal on, so it kind of helps predict where you're going and start moving that traffic out of the way. It's not going to be perfect because we can't drive faster and that's not the way to fix our response time issues because it's not safe to do so. And we don't want to do anything that's going to injure the public. And also we talked about the land acquisition for a new station is in FY25 as well. Next slide, please. So this year we did take delivery of a new engine out at Station 6. We did approve, like we talked about, the ALS 360 contract with Stryker Medical that got us new cots, powered stair chairs that actually will take a person up the stairs and down the stairs. The biggest seller that, or the biggest impact that this plan has had on our providers is it's called the power load system. So it's a piece of equipment that is attached to the back of the ambulance. It essentially picks the cot up and we just push it in and take it in and out that way. And it's just been a huge back saver and helping giving extra longevity to people's careers by reducing those lifting and moving strains on the lower back. We did take possession of new SCBA bottles. 85 of those and about 170 cylinders that go with them. They're an upgrade to what you all wore at Fire Ops, a little bit lighter. They have a different capacity in there of when the alarms go off to make it safer for all the providers on the scene. Next slide. Talk a little about our operations. Like we talked already, 13,618 calls we did last year. Of those, about 77% of those calls were EMS related, and the other 23% we'll call fire related. So that would cover everything from structure fire response, fire alarms, lift assist. A lot of times we'll get called out for an accident or something like that, but we'll get canceled by police on the way there because there's really not anything happening. So those all kind of get lumped into another category. That actually averages out to over 37 calls per day, which is a huge increase. Next slide, please. Talk a little about the data on operational status. So here we've got a view of the calls per company. So everything with a one by it, like truck one, medic one, engine one, that's everything that runs out of our headquarters station. And just due to their location and the population density down there, they're covering the bulk of the city and running the bulk of the calls. As we look forward to how we improve what we do, we need to look for ways that we're taking some of that workload off of that station and kind of redistributing it throughout the rest of the city. As part of looking at our response times, we try to have a performance objective that's spelled out by the National Fire Protection Association. And that says we should strive to be on scene at 90% of the time in 5 minutes and 20 seconds for an emergency fire response and 5 minutes for emergency EMS response. And for that term emergency, that's anything that requires lights and sirens response. The EMS calls are a little bit slower or faster because they don't have the turnout gear to put on it. So they give a little bit extra time for that. Right now, our average response time for fire calls is 4 minutes and 46 seconds, and EMS calls are 4 minutes and 35 seconds. We're only meeting the 5 minute and 20-second goal 61% of the time on fire calls and 57% of the time on those EMS calls. Attempting to meet these performance things continue to be a challenge year after year. And actually, while we would hope that we are getting a little bit better, but what we're seeing is they're actually slowly kind of going the wrong direction. And the reason for that is we're seeing increased call demand, but it's happening at the same time. So we've got some graphs that we can share at another time that shows how busy we are in this downtown area, but consistently, sometimes we don't have a vehicle in this area to respond on those calls. So as we look to the future and how we can reduce that response times, it's not only a station location, it might be additional units at a current station to help pick up that workload. Some of the stats on that, so 43% of the time last year when a call came in, only 43% of the time, no other calls in the city were going at the same time. If we had one call going on, 77% of the time, we had at least one call for fire or EMS responses happening in the city last year. Like I said, when we look to address these in the future, we're looking at staffing, having the appropriate number of vehicles on the streets in the right locations, enhancing those technology to navigate traffic a little bit better, and making sure any future stations are appropriately located. Next slide, please. Training. So here you got a quick snapshot of all the different topics and disciplines that our firefighter paramedics need to do every year to be proficient, competent, and deliver the quality of services that the community deserves. When we add up all those hours, averages out, or actually, it's over 15,000 call or hours per year for all the different disciplines of training. The response profile for our people have grown over time and is diversified how we are as a emergency response service. It requires that additional training and to maintain proficiency and stay on top of our game. The highlights of 2023 was the development of an in-house captain's training academy. This was put together by a cross-section of our officers and battalion chiefs and really brought forth the necessary education skills and abilities that our next generation of fire captains are going to need. And we're giving them the training in this and making sure that they're ready to fill that seat on the first day when they step in there. And also another caveat to that, it helps us assist with succession planning as we have retirements, people move up, that we have people ready to fill those seats. Next slide, please. EMS, like we talked about, it's accounting for about 77% of the calls that we go on. Not only do we provide 911 response for emergencies, but we also have seen an increase in requests for us to do standby events. We provided an ambulance at area football games, at the high school, the college level, any big events at the arena or larger scale events like tailgate tall boys and things like that. Last year we did about 57 of those extra special events. Highlights of the 2023 and looking to the future. We were once again a multi-year recipient of the Mission Lifeline EMS Gold Award, just highlighting how excellent a job our people do at treating heart attack victims and giving the appropriate care and being part of that team. We'll continue to be upgrading our medical equipment. We'll be receiving new LifePak 15 defibrillators as part of that ALS 360 plan. We're replacing our video laryngoscopes, hiring 15 additional members. That's what we're doing right now. Hopefully starting April 1st for Fire Academy. That's going to give us the right staffing to put that 5th ambulance in service at headquarters here that will have a direct impact on those response times. And then next year, if budget passes as approved, we'll be purchasing 2 additional ambulances. We're seeing a 2-year lead time at least on any new ambulances and fire apparatus moving forward. So like Scott talked about, we've got to purchase things now to be here when we need to actually replace them. Next slide. Not only do we do fire and EMS, we also are the hazardous materials team for our locally, and also we're part of the mutual aid box alert system. That's a statewide system that provides mutual aid pretty much anywhere and everywhere they're called upon. We've gone not only areas in the state, but we've been deployed to Hurricane Katrina and some other locations when the need arises. Once again, it's a very specialized discipline that requires specialized training, additional requirements and certifications that they get through the Office of State Fire Marshal's office and part of our annual training program. Some of the incidents that they respond to would be carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide incidents as well. We're seeing a lot more of those bigger systems at like fast food restaurants to carbonate their different products, chemical spills, gas leaks, flammable liquids, anything bad that's not on fire. You know, we will send some specialized people for that. Last year, we had about 185 of these different hazardous materials incidents. Next slide, please. We'll talk about a little bit of a topic that you probably don't always associate with the fire department or the emergency response, but it's public education. And really, this is just as an important part of the fire service as it directly supports our mission. Education is an essential part of preventing emergencies from happening and also training the public and how to maybe care for themselves, put out fires, use fire extinguishers, and just be better prepared when something happens. Some of the big ticket items that they do CPR first aid classes, fire extinguisher training. They have public safety announcements through the various social media platforms, and even just having short conversations that our crews on the streets do with people after an incident's over about things that, you know, questions they have, or when the kids come up and we're out testing fire hydrants, like you see some of the pictures there. Any opportunity that we can to have an interaction with the public and tell our story is a very important one, and we encourage our guys to do that as much as possible. Other highlights for the Public Education Department, 47 different community engagements, Public Safety Day, Day of the Dozers, all those big things like that. Frank Friend has a regular appearance with WJBC with Blake Haas. So he goes and just, you know, they ask questions and he's tells them what they need to know. Really sells our story. We have over 16,000 Facebook followers, 32 press releases, and 22 interviews with the media this last year. Next slide. A little bit about aircraft rescue firefighting. That's what we provide to the Central Illinois Regional Airport. Once again, specialized training that takes certifications through the state and also through the FAA. We've developed another in-house training program that puts our people through not only the classroom portion, but the hands-on training, and they're more than capable to go out and respond to those emergencies if they happen. Luckily, we've not experienced a large majority of those locally. We've had some bigger ones in the past, but we probably respond to about 10 incidents on the airfield. Most of the time, it's maybe a fire alarm or a detector on a plane as they're coming in. We'll roll out there, but we have to be diligent, competent, and ready to respond in case an emergency happens. And with the expertise of some of our members, we're ready to do that anytime. Next slide, please. Finally, just to wrap up with some fire investigation. Not only is it the responsibility of the fire department to put out fires and things like that, but we also have the duty to investigate the origin and cause of those fires, and that's part of the state statute. We have a knowledgeable and very talented and experienced team of 7 fire investigators that round out this team that responds to calls when they're needed. They work closely with the Bloomington police officers. They have some detectives that are trained in arson investigation, and they will come out and assist us when a fire cause is suspicious in nature. The numbers for 2023 for regards to fire investigations, there was 41 fires investigated. 25 of those were deemed as accidental, which could be anywhere from improperly discarded smoking materials or some sort of unknown electrical failure in kind of the circuit system. 7 of those were classified as incendiary, which required the team and assistance from Bloomington Police to help them work them as an arson case. Of those 7, they've either resulted in an arrest or they're still actively being investigated, waiting on either more information to come from witnesses or maybe results come back from evidence being sent off to a lab. 9 of those fires were classified as undetermined. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we couldn't determine the cause, but there might not have been a clear cut. It was exactly this. It could have been potentially, smoking materials here, but there was an appliance issue that had that recall on it. And so there wasn't enough scientific evidence to definitely say it was X versus Y. So a lot of those do end up as undetermined, and the insurance companies will come in and try to, negotiate how that all works out for them. Another highlight of this fire investigation team is actually their passion for what they do. They're very dedicated, and we do see, not a lot, but we do see some at-risk kids in our community that have been suspected of starting fires. And so a lot of them are trained in the juvenile fire setter program. So parents or the school districts will reach out to us, and these investigators that have trained in this will sit down with them, talk to the parents, interview them, connect them with any community resources they might need, and hopefully get them on the correct path forward so that we don't see them again in the future. And we had about 3 of those interventions that occurred in 2023. So just in closing for me, like I said, I'd like to express my gratitude for being here for you today. I can't say enough about the people I work for, and they don't work for me, I work for them, but they're highly talented, highly motivated, and they're out there every day doing what's needed for our city and just putting the best foot forward, and I appreciate everything I do. And with that, I don't know if Billy had some more comments.
Thank you, Chief. Really appreciate that. As you can see, a lot of work getting done. One of the things that we actually think is worth celebrating, frankly, is what you see on the screen. The fire department hasn't been fully staffed for some time now. And as we said when we started, part of the reason is because across the country, it's tough to get applicants. Over the years, we typically have gotten 50 or less applicants. Back in the spring of 23, we started working with IAFF Local 49, which is the local union, just to figure out ways to eliminate hiring hurdles. We talked about a lot of different things and working towards a way to continue to make the department a department of choice, but also, again, as I said, figuring out how to get rid of unnecessary hurdles. One of the hurdles we felt was the fact that applicants had to have a paramedic license coming in the door. Now, being a paramedic obviously is a noble profession for sure, but there aren't a lot of folks who have the license or who have the license who are wanting to switch careers. So one of the things we talked about was recommending eliminating that requirement. Back in October, we recommended and you approved the elimination of the requirement that an applicant coming in the door had to have a paramedic certification, again, at the time of application. Immediately after that, we started our first hiring round and we're beginning to see results. We did see results, not beginning. As I said, in past years, we would see less than 50 applicants, and we would often not get enough people to actually get hired. This round, after this change was made, we had 314 applicants, which is a big number, obviously. I think that there was some misunderstanding at the time that this change was made that we were lowering our standard. We're not. The other thing that's happening with this is that instead of having the person come in the door with the certification or do the training outside of us, we will provide the training in-house. So there are some budget items that you will be considering whereby we'll be providing the training. Again, 15 current vacancies on the department. Of those 314 applicants, 65 individuals made the final list for potential hire. So we have 15 positions to fill. We have 65 people to choose from at this point, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say we're going to be able to fill those vacancies. Now, obviously, you sometimes have retirements, et cetera, but that hasn't happened in recent history. So we're excited about this. And again, I think it's something really to be celebrated. The other thing to talk about is that there's a diverse group of people who have made that list, not just from race or socioeconomic background, but there are people, I believe, Chief, and correct me if I'm wrong, from a military background and other backgrounds as well, that again, are going to go towards our efforts to diversify the department as well. So we're over the moon excited about this. Chief, anything you want to add or say?
No, I just would like to say, yeah, really excited about what the future's holding for us. We've got a lot of things working in our favor right now. Not that we haven't done in the past, but we're going to accomplish a lot of things over this next year. And I just look forward to working with everybody and making it happen. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Questions? Councilmember Ward.
Yeah, I want to just thank you for this report. It's really exciting to see the changes that are already, showing fruit. So thank you for sharing that with us. I did have one question about something that you shared. You mentioned the standby EMS for different events in the community, like football games and things like that. Is there a charge for that?
There is. We charge a different rate for like high schools and stuff like that versus a commercial event. Right off the top of my head, a commercial event for an ambulance for 4-hour standby is like $500. And it's probably half that. I'm just trying to recall for a high school event.
Yeah. Thank you. I was just curious. And thank you for all you do. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Great report. One quick question that I have, and I'm sorry if I missed it, but you said this is the most diverse group that you've had in terms of or at least applicants, hires, or potential hires. So can you maybe go into a little bit more detail about the diversity of the group?
Well, one of the things that, again, Tim has talked about and the chief has worked to carry out is through our recruitment efforts, working to diversify the department. Again, from a standpoint of the obvious, which is related to race, that's what people tend to think about, but also getting people who are from various backgrounds. So as part of this grouping, we know that we had a number of applicants who had military backgrounds. We had a number of applicants who were from different areas and bring to the table other things that we think will make the department better. And so in the past, part of the reason obviously that we didn't have that is because we didn't have a lot of applicants. But one of the things that we were intentional in doing is going to different locations where you would have people who had different backgrounds. And we started to see results as it relates to people applying for our department and obviously making the list. And when I say they made the list, that means that they passed the interview, they passed the physical agility test, and they also passed the testing as well. So they passed all the components and are ready to be hired. Hopefully that kind of answered your question.
Yes, it does. It does. And I know, so you've been pretty successful and then you've shared your secrets with the rest of the world. So what's the next step is, because I'm assuming that others will follow suit and then we'll find ourselves in a similar competitive environment again. So
Absolutely. While the numbers were great, there's always more that we can do. As an example, can we go to colleges that have this type of degree offer? We will start to do more of that. One of the things we want to do is also start young, as an example, and introduce people to firefighting as a career at a younger age. The chief talked about public education. Well, that's an important part of introducing people and exposing people to a career that perhaps they didn't know was even a possibility. And so there's always more we can do. Those numbers, while in my opinion, they're good, they can always get higher. And again, we'll just continue doing what we're doing and doing more of it.
awesome. Well, I was at Bright Point back in the fall and there was a fire truck there and it was a big hit. Big hit with the kids. So, and the big kids. I had a chance to take one of those fire hoses and it's rough. It is rough. That's why I'm not a firefighter. It is really hard. Oh, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
And the police presentation is ready, so we'll jump back to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
It is ready. All right. Well, Chief Symington, this is your opportunity to take shots back at fire. You get the last word.
Thank you, Mayor. I once was a fireman, so I will,
Split loyalties.
I'll take the higher. Thanks again for the opportunity to address you this evening, City Council, Mayor, Deputy City Managers, and the City Manager. As I expressed earlier, it is an honor and a privilege to serve in this noble profession and lead this organization. We have 123 police officers and about 47 professional staff who, on a daily basis, give themselves for the betterment of this community. And that is exciting to be a part of. Next. The mission of the Bloomington Police Department is to work in partnership with community members to enforce the laws and improve or enhance the quality of life in this community. We take it serious. We have a workforce which wholeheartedly believes in this mission and are dedicated seeking to exceed expectations on a daily basis through constitutional policing strategies. I'll demonstrate that the overall crime rate is down for 2023, which is an exciting piece of news. Next, please. Our command staff, I have, again, the privilege to work with those men who lead variety of departments within the department and units within the department, that there is a combined 252 years of experience. The right and ethical leadership takes and makes a tremendous difference in an organization, providing the tools, the support to carry forth the mission. I owe a great deal of gratitude and I have a high regard and respect for them and their exceptional work that they demonstrate on a daily basis. Next. When we set out with the current strategic plan, the 4 components of that was to improve the quality of life in neighborhoods, reduce the crime and the fear of crime, strengthen and diversify our workforce, and maintain advances in law enforcement technology. This report will touch on each of those strategic goals, and you'll find this body of work the men and women of this organization do to go above and beyond to serve this community, displaying selflessness, courage, dedication, and high levels of integrity. Next, please. The Assistant Chief of Professional Standards, which is led by Assistant Chief Chad Walmsley, who's actually on vacation this evening. I'm very proud of this gentleman. His team was able to process 18 new police officers, providing training for 25 of those new officers that were hired last year into this year. and the training has been outstanding. Another 56,000 hours of training went to staff, both professional staff and sworn officers. His division conducted 70 background investigations. 25 of those were for new police officers. Others were for other police department and IT professional staff and fire department personnel. They worked diligently to find the brightest and the most diverse candidates while striving to fulfill our 30 by 30 pledge, which is that we'd have 30% of our staff represented by female police officers. And we are making some progress in that arena. The expansion of our wellness program has been demonstrated through effective leadership and partnerships. We've partnered with the 100 Club to provide resources, substantial resources to our staff, and we are extending that to those officers' families as well. 4,345 items of evidence that have been collected and investigations have been processed, stored by this division. They processed 1,499 Freedom of Information requests from the public. And that's a 13% increase from 2023. My apologies, 2022. Another highlight, we'll come before you in a few weeks to share the Illinois Law Enforcement Accreditation, reaccreditation for the police department. The feedback from the gentleman that conducted the accreditation process has been overwhelmingly positive. And again, another reflection of the professional work that's being done day in and day out by this organization. We also enjoy a good working relationship with the Public Safety Community and Relations Board. We meet with them on a monthly basis. Generally, that's under Assistant Chief Walmsley's leadership. The feedback, having an opportunity to listen to them as they present information from the public that we can act on and make a difference in this community has been exceptional. Some of those have included our current public safety camera program, as well as our automatic license plate reader program. And we effectively demonstrate to that body that will, again, abide by constitutional policing standards to enhance the safety of this community. Next, please. Under Assistant Chief Aaron Veerman's leadership, he is in attendance tonight. The Office of Administration. This year, or I'm sorry, in 2023, we assumed responsibility of the Bloomington Police, the Bloomington City of Bloomington Parking Enforcement Team. That transition was very smooth. He's also responsible for leading a change in our fleet. We were able to procure and put on the road 17 new police cars, and you'll see some of those with redesigned seals and striping. Also expanded the public safety camera program, as well as the automatic license plate reader program. Traffic safety improvements have been made with the addition of moving radar units, and we were able to secure 3 Illinois Department of Transportation grants to drive up our traffic enforcement efforts. There have been numerous IT upgrades at the police department. Our new drone technology, a $56,000 investment, allowed us to purchase 3 drones. We have created a new comprehensive policy. We also have 6 pilots that have received their license from the FAA to fly those drones. And examples so far of the use of those have been a large area search of for a stabbing victim, digital evidence gathering for a fatal crash, and then also utilize it for a SWAT deployment to ensure that as they were approaching the armed subject, that it could be done as safely as possible. The Bloomington Police Department also has Assistant Chief Veerman serving as the liaison for the Special Commission on Safe Communities. This division also organized and led the Safes for Gun Storage giveaway. On the first half of 2023, the city did take reports for 27 stolen guns. And then the second half, we were down to 19. That's a 30% reduction. I would hope some of that has something to do with those gun safes that are in our community. We have unfortunately had some supply demand issues concerning some of the technology that we have purchased with that $500,000 DCEO grant. But we were working through that to get all of that equipment in place and fulfill the utilization of those. Next, please. Our communication center, 911 center, some may refer to, that functions under Mr. Darren Wolf's leadership. I am very proud of this group of women and men. In 2023, they were able to acquire another accreditation. That accreditation is a trifecta. So they are completely accredited now in police, EMS, and fire dispatching. They've also started the new generation of texting from 911 through a cell phone. They were also recognized by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children for meeting the essential training and policy standards. Overall, they experienced a 17% increase in call volume from the previous year, a 2% decrease in public requests for police, but a 2.5% increase for fire department requests. Next, please. The Patrol Division and the Criminal Investigations Division serves under Assistant Chief Paul Williams' leadership. Patrol is the most visible function of the police department. They're staffed with 87 police officers and 15 supervisors. They are the front line. They're responding to dangerous calls on a daily basis, seeking to problem solve effectively, efficiently, and swiftly with an overall goal of community and officer safety. There was a nominal decrease in arrests this year. They made great strides in affecting traffic crashes, which is at a 2% decrease. And then there have been more traffic stops in 2023. And in addition to that, we had a 27% increase in DUI arrests in 2023, which effectively, truly increases our traffic safety in this community and saves lives. Next, please. Criminal Investigations Division. This is a unit of highly qualified and skilled men and women who go out and do follow-up investigations on felony cases in this community. Lieutenant Todd McCluskey is the commander of that division. He did graduate from the Northwestern University Public Safety Staff and Command School, which is a 10-week school. His division also contributes to the ATF Central Illinois Gun Task Force, and we have rejoined the United States Marshal Fugitive Apprehension Team, and that team was responsible for bringing 10 fugitives, felony fugitives, back to this community to serve justice, and some of which were aggravated cases, and one was a murder. The Criminal Crime and Intelligence Analysis Unit is world-class, and I am fortunate that it's led by Mr. Jack McQueen. In 2023, we had at least 7 other law enforcement agencies come here to this community to meet with him and his staff to learn how better to affect crime rates in a community. And that's anything from violent crime to stolen cars and shootings. They then take those best practices back to their communities to try to leverage that to increase safety for their community. And so that is definitely a highlight and something you should be very proud of with this police department. The productivity of that unit, that 3-person unit, increased 34% over 2022. That means they're doing more work, the more technology that we're fortunate to receive as a result of your support is effectively positively impacting the crime rate here in this community, but it's driving work volume and task up. But we're right for that, and we're looking forward to an opportunity to create a real-time crime center if approved in the next fiscal year's budget. Next, please. We have a neighborhood focus team, which is out in the community. They're very visible, working with community members to solve problems, to deal with nuisances throughout this community. We do have 238 registered sex offenders that are managed very well by the police officer and the community service officers on a daily basis, and that gives us the opportunity to properly manage those offenders. Next, please. Our Special Weapons and Tactics Group and our Crisis Negotiation Unit, they train together sometimes throughout the year, and they have separate trainings as well. They have been instrumental in solving some calls for service through an ability to communicate effectively with someone who may be in crisis or dealing with an issue, which certainly is a positive outcome and one that doesn't result in any use of force. Our SWAT team has been utilized more often by the task force drug unit at the Illinois State Police's request to help them effectuate search warrants. And then there has been an increase in collaboration with the McLean County Sheriff's Department. We helped them apprehend a murder suspect as a result of one of their investigations. Next, please. School resource officers, another gem of this agency. We have 4 SROs that are assigned to the school district, both in Unit 5 and District 87. They do a wonderful job. I want to bring up to your attention the camp that they held last summer. We're able to serve 27 kids of the ages from 11 to 14. And some of the feedback from them, parents, extremely rewarding as it created trust with these students in our police department. A student said to an SRO, "You are the most trusted person in this entire high school." Another student with disruptive behavior said the camp was fun. SRO Wagehoff has been able to partner with teachers and administration to assist the student, and it has made a tremendous difference in the improvement of his behavior. Several students have been asking SROs to consider them again for this year's camp. There are several others who want to attend the camp because they've heard the experience of those that attended last year. So we look forward to serving at least 30 or more students again this summer. And again, it's another highlight for our police department. Next, please. On the technology front, I did refer to this earlier, but I assure you that we continue with constitutional policing strategies when we use this technology. We have to use it responsibly, and that is an expectation. Our $40,000 investment in TIP 411 has been a force multiplier. It has led to 264 tips in this community. Some of those tips have related to homicides, gun possession, the apprehension of a person with a gun on a city bus, a suspect that crashed into a bar patron and fled, and it involved a gun. That suspect was identified. An arsonist was identified. And in another case, a repeated reckless driving matter in a neighborhood was reported to us, and we were able to act on it. Our automatic license plate readers continue to impact our way of doing business on a daily basis. It is leading to effective crime strategies and apprehensions in this community. Something else, again, because of your support, we're able to carry out. Our trailer cameras have been deployed 22 times, and with the addition of the funding from that grant, we're able to purchase 2 additional trailer cams, and they do deter bad behavior, and they also provide an opportunity for us to have additional evidence when needed in criminal investigations. Next, please. Awards and recognition. This year, we will hold our 2nd annual award ceremony, but throughout the year, we continuously support our officers who are doing an exceptional job. And those that go above and beyond, we acknowledge them through a reward process and demonstrate an ability to truly capture those moments through an effort to thank them. Next, please. Departmental outreach continues. We did have a trial run with My 90, and it did report to us that 80% of people that had dealing with the police department thought the service was good to very good and felt that they were treated fairly and with high respect. My 90 has also demonstrated the need for more police officer visibility in the community. That was the number one request from community members, is more police visibility. In addition to that, it demonstrated three areas of concern. Violent crime was number one, number two were property crimes, and number three were bad driving behavior in this community. So we will continue to work hard to address each of those. It is concerning to us as well. And under Assistant Chief Williams' leadership, he has created a two-person traffic team, which has been out working effectively to deter bad driving and hold bad drivers accountable. Next, please. The police department's community engagement. We had a 50% increase in community engagement activities. Not too often do we say no for an opportunity to engage with the community, whether it's the youth or other organizations. And we look forward to an opportunity to increase that as well. In 2024, we held 20 Coffee with a Cop events and 13 neighborhood walks. And there's more to come. It's trust building. It's learning faces and putting faces and names together and picking up the phone to have engagement opportunities, but also over a cup of coffee. And that's not a bad thing. So, next, please. Accountability. We have high accountability standards. The objective of the police department, again, is we have to be held to high standard and have a high level of accountability. This demonstrates out of the 64,918 police calls for service, we only received complaints in less than 1%. So 0.26% of the time. Use of force was only utilized 0.33% of the time during those calls for service. We had 17 complaints that came into the police department last year. That's down from 21 the previous year, which again reflects on the professionalism of our officers and the organization and our high accountability standards. You'll see there's annual training and training that we focus on for every 3 years to keep our accreditation standards, but we truthfully go above and beyond providing training for the members of our organization. Next, please. Police and dispatcher recruitment. We continue to keep our foot on the pedal. We understand that the job market is tough, especially for public servants in the police arena. We have created a field recruitment team. That team is out in the colleges and universities and at schools recruiting. And we had interviews last week, and we have more diverse candidates coming forward to participate. Our numbers will allow us to keep pace with our staffing. And so last year we were able to take on 337 police applicants, which is not as good as it would have been 5 to 10 years ago. But it is allowing us to fulfill the hiring needs of the police department at this point in time. A message to the community: we are hiring, and we're looking for outstanding public servants. And if they're from here, City of Bloomington, or in this footprint, that's a bonus as well. Next, please. Last but not least are the crime statistics. Crime is down 6% overall in this community. Something to be proud of. We understand that it literally takes a city or a village to impact crime and crime rates. And if not for partnerships with our community, we cannot be as effective. If not with the support of the city council and the city manager, we would not be as successful as we have been. Concerning, I know, the increase of theft of motor vehicles, but if you recall, it was in the media and something that was across the country. The thefts of Hyundai and Kias, which have been corrected by those manufacturers, but we literally had 22 of those stolen last summer. That drove the significant increase in thefts. Sex offenses are up. I will note that one person who's suffering from mental illness reported over 20 assaults in 2023. That had a big impact on that number. None of those were able to substantiate. Arsons were up by 75%, but a lot of that is trash cans being set on fire, dumpsters, things of that nature in the parks. And only 4 of those were residential. Our burglaries did increase by 20%. We had a mix of juvenile suspects that were checking for unlocked cars and doors of homes to create, I wouldn't say havoc, but to impact those victims. And so that was that created a slight increase in those types of cases. And then extortion and blackmail was up as well. And we attribute that to a growth in people threatening others with private photographs as a way to get back in breakups and things of that nature. Many of these are not outstanding cyber crimes per se. With that, I'll end and take any questions if there are any.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, Councilman Ward. And
Thank
then
you, Chief.
Trump.
Thank you, Chief, for this report. I appreciate all that you're doing, and it's great to see some of the gun violence data that you're providing, and to know that there wasn't a single gun homicide last year. That's awesome in the community. I do have a number of questions. One item that on that last slide, it seemed like there was an increase in guns reported stolen. And I thought at the beginning of your report, you said something about a decrease, and maybe I misunderstood. Can you clarify that for me?
Yes, so I was comparing the time before the giveaways of the safes. So it trended downward after those safes were distributed in the community.
Okay. And that was sometime in the summer, so about halfway through the year.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
saw a decrease. That's great.
That is correct.
Yeah, that brings me to my other big question, and that has to do with just about a year ago, on March 13th, a year ago, when this council was deliberating an increase to funding for the department to the tune of about $500,000 related to state grants that we got. There was a list of projects and programs on that you had provided to us that you would wanted that money to be spent on. And so at that time, when this council was deliberating that, we actually approved an amendment to that agreement, asking for some measures of how and review of each of those items that you were asking for, and to get a sense of how well they're working over the past year, and to have some targets that we can look at and review. And so I was curious if you had those to share with us tonight. At the time, I believe it was maybe the city manager who had suggested that information could be shared tonight. And so I'm curious to see how well those programs that we've spent about $500,000 on are working.
Yes, ma'am. Very good question, and thank you for that. I touched on a few things throughout the presentation. I'll just kind of rehash some of that. But our youth summer camp, we did not expend all of those funds in last year's summer camp. Some of those are offset by donations or donated time, sort of in kind. So we will have some carryover, which is great, into this year's summer camp. So we will allocate those funds there as well. But again, we impacted the 27 kids, and all of them in checking today, all of them have been on the right track and have had a better relationship in school with teachers, with our SROs, and so forth. So we've noticed a positive impact on those kids. How do you measure that? What's the value of it? I think that's substantial. The other thing is that the TIP 411 program, again, another investment, we had over 200 and,
Is that the text-to-tip?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah.
That is correct.
And what was the result of the $12,000? For
So
that?
we did enter into the contract with them, and just referring back to my notes, I think we had 263 tips that came into the police department. 264 tips. And some of those tips, just to repeat, two were related to gun cases. One was a shooting case that identified the offender. The other was a man that had a gun on a bus here downtown, and we're able to identify him through the utilization of the information that came in. Another one was a crash that involved a bar patron that also, which fled before we arrived, who also had a gun. That suspect was identified. So those are some high level examples. We send a ton of tips out to the Illinois State Police Task Force 6, where we're invested with personnel as well. And some of those have turned out to be good tips.
And then there was the reward money for tips.
Yes, ma'am. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, that has been one of those where we haven't seen any good action. So in consulting with legal and the state's attorney's office, the police department cannot itself provide tip money directly to those that report tips. So we had to step back and evaluate the best way to go about it. As you know, Crime Stoppers does not exist anymore here in this community. We are working with the previous leaders of that organization, as well as the sheriff's department and our other law enforcement partners here in the county. And we have a commitment from each of those organizations to provide seed money to stand up, hopefully, another Crime Stoppers or a version thereof to provide tips. So that's one where we weren't able to expend those funds at the moment. The National Integrated Ballistics Information Network, we have the hardware, the equipment at the police department. We are waiting for ATF's vendor, who has to come in and put in a secure, dedicated line from the federal government into our building. And we're just waiting for that to be awarded by the ATF. But we do have the unit. We just need to wait for that process to take place so we can start utilizing it.
And you mentioned the gun buyback program.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Did we spend that whole $60,000?
We did, yes. Matter of fact, I think the last gentleman that showed up had more guns than we had money available. But it worked out. We were able to expend all of those monies. And then the gun safes, those were purchased and all given out as well.
So I noticed that, I mean, are you including the gun safes in with the gun lock purchase? Is that, were you thinking of that? Because the gun safes weren't part of the list. The gun locks were. And what I'm looking at is, the item on March 13th, 2023. Item number 6.
Yeah, so the item that we came to council to purchase were tools to secure guns. And it was determined that the safes would be the best tool to secure guns, not the gun locks. Gun locks are pretty much out there and available, and you know, there are organizations that give those out. That's not enough to provide a higher level of gun security for gun owners. So we did use those funds to purchase gun safes that were used for gun storage.
We are out of time, I'm told. So is there a motion for an extension?
I would move to extend for 5 minutes.
Second. Go ahead, Nick.
Member Hendricks and second by Councilmember Becker. And just voice vote.
Yes, please. Councilmember Kearns? Oh. So many mics on.
Yes.
Councilmember Bolin?
Yes.
Councilmember Dannenberger?
Yes.
Councilmember Becker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hendricks?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Aye.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Crumpler?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Councilmember Ward, were you done or? Okay.
I don't think so, because we were still going through the list, that I think we had gotten to the mobile public safety trailer cameras for $80,000 and trying to get a sense of how well that's worked and what targets you're setting for these based on that review.
Yes, ma'am. So our objective is to deploy those as often as possible. We have had some experience with the camera quality. So those things have had to come back to the department for upgrades internally because of software issues. So at any rate, they have been deployed effectively at public safety gatherings, or I'm sorry, gatherings of significance, tailgate and tall boys, 4th of July, as well as a downtown event. And they've been well received in the community. We've also deployed those to hotspots where shootings have occurred in neighborhoods in an effort to thwart any opportunity for shooters to retaliate and things of that nature. So that has provided substantial opportunities for deterrence as well as evidence gathering in those neighborhoods. Last but not least are the drones. The drones were purchased. We have the officers who have received the training, as I spoke to earlier, have their pilot's license from the FAA. Because of issues with the vendor, we've had to wait on our last drone because the other one did not meet the specifications for our SWAT team. But all of those are in place now. We have a strategy for deploying those more often as the summer months and outdoor activities increase here this upcoming spring and summer. And again, they have been used in a few cases to date.
So thank you for that going through that. Of the $500,000, then would you say that all of those expenses you're seeking to have funded again in fiscal year 25?
Ma'am, I'm not following your question.
So this list of items that we just went through were all funded through the $500,000 grant that we got from the state. They were reimbursed expenses that we were able to fund because we had the grant money from the state. And I'm asking whether we're going to be funding those again this year, 25.
Well, a majority of that money were for purchases, programs, for instance, the camp. Yes, we will purchase things that the camp needs for this upcoming summer. So yes, that would be carryover. The other is hopefully being able to secure a opportunity for the public to report Crime Stoppers, for instance.
Yeah.
And tip money.
I'm guessing, I'm wondering about, for example, gun buybacks or the safes, that kind of thing, whether you're going to be wanting to do that again this year.
So we're not asking for money from the city council to do that again this year. What I would love is for a public-private partnership. And so as we meet with members in the community, hopefully someone will step forward and want to donate money or material to make that a reality, because it truly was a hit in this community. There was a need. People were a majority were high on that opportunity. So no, from a prioritization perspective, we felt monies were better suited elsewhere as we approach the next fiscal cycle.
I know that other people have questions, so I'll end by by asking for this, for maybe a more systematic set of targets and goals that that can be measured. I'll just read from the minutes of that meeting. So that item was amended to create a new section following section 2, where city council directs staff to create targets for violence prevention and a way to measure benchmarks to review the programs prior to the next budget cycle. So that last part, to measure benchmarks to review the programs prior to the next budget cycle. So what are the benchmarks? And let us review them. We're in the final stages of the budget cycle. That's what I'm asking for. I know that we can't do that in 46 seconds, but I think the case would be strengthened for those public-private partnerships and for further buy-in from people like me to something like this. If we could get those benchmarks and review the programs prior to the ask, as we directed as a council last year. Thank you.
Councilman Becker, Councilmember Becker, and Crumpler, you have 15 seconds.
I'll be very quick. We talked about a lot of the specifics here in the last 20 minutes, but if you take the big picture and look at it, how do we compare with other communities our size? You know, I feel like from interaction with the Criminal Justice Council, and I see just a fabulous job. I see everything that we're doing is well beyond what we can expect, but how do you see us as comparing to other communities similar to us?
Thank you for your comment, sir. I appreciate that. And I know the men and women of this police department do as well. In looking at the data that we have before us in all of these other communities, they're of like size. Their homicides are higher. There are a couple that are in double-digit categories. Their shootings where persons were hit are substantially, sometimes 4 times the number that we had in 2023. And then the other shots fired. 3 of the communities are in triple digits for shots fired incidents. And we had the 30. So I think that speaks volumes to our community, to the efforts of our community members and the support and the confidence they have in the police department. Hopefully that answers your question, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Crumpler, you have 0 seconds.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be very brief. Thank you, Chief Semmington, for your report this evening. One of the things that resonates for me across your report is the success of community-based policing. I know when you came in as chief, that was something that you emphasized. And I really see the efforts of you and your officers shifting how the community sees police officers, their engagement with the community. And I think the successes that you just described, you know, for Councilmember Becker are definitely attributed to those efforts. So thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the presentation. I want to say thank you, not just to you, but also fire department, because I think public safety is really one of the cornerstones of a prosperous community. And really thank you for the job that all of you are doing. We wouldn't be who we are in Bloomington without you, so really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Okay, so now we are going to move on to our city manager's discussion. He probably has another music video.
Thank you, Mayor, and to the council. Catherine, if you would run the video, please.
Spring is in full swing, and with it comes a vibrant array of community events to look forward to. On March 16th from 9 a.m. to noon, head down to the Grossinger Motors Arena for the March Indoor Farmers Market. It's a celebration of local produce, crafts, and flavors, perfect for stocking up on fresh goods while supporting our local vendors. Get ready to laugh until your sides hurt because March 21st at 7 p.m., the Bloomington Center for the Performing Arts presents the one and only comedian Rodney Carrington. Known for his hilarious stand-up routines and uncensored humor, Carrington is bringing his comedy tour to the BCPA for a night of nonstop laughter and entertainment. Then mark your calendars for March 30th at 10 a.m. when the downtown square comes alive for Eggs on the Square. It's an exciting event for the whole family with egg hunts and plenty of fun-filled activities. As April rolls around, don't miss the first Friday Hop and Shop on April 5th. It's a hopping good time with special deals, live entertainment, and a chance to explore our charming downtown shops as they stay open late for the occasion. From fresh produce to laughter-filled moments and family fun, these upcoming events are sure to put a little spring in everyone's step.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm not allowed to pick the background music, so I had nothing to do with that. The only additional comment that I have is next week at the Committee of the Whole is going to be the presentation of the downtown streetscape study. We'll prep council this week. We'll get the final draft booklets in your hands tomorrow. They weren't quite ready today. And we'll have those ready for you in the 3-on-1s. But truly, very, very happy with the outreach, the numbers that we have connected with in the community, and really feel like this is a community message back to council, which is exactly what we were looking for. So that's next week at the Committee of the Whole. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Under Mayor's discussion, I just wanted to bring to your attention that we are getting $2 million for Hamilton Road, and also getting $2 million for the Locust Colton project. And this is part of the congressionally directed spending that was supported by Congressman LaHood for Hamilton Road and Congressman Sorensen for Locust Colton. And I'd be remiss if I did not mention Thorn Run Partners, our lobbying firm, that significantly contributed to this effort as well. So this is very, very exciting news. And I think we should end it on that note, right? I'm going to turn it over to council members for comments. Councilmember Hendricks.
Just really quickly to the community, the McLean County Regional Planning Commission has put out their regional housing recovery plan document, and that document is open for public comment and review until March 14th, so Thursday. There's a lot of really good stuff, a lot of really good data, a lot of really good strategic initiatives that we as the council can do, but also lots of opportunities for the community as well. So just wanted to make sure that was on everybody's forefront.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no other comment, I am going to ask for a motion to enter into executive session under section 2C1 of 5 ILCS 120 personnel to discuss the compensation of City Manager Tim Gleason. And if I could get a motion and then a second.
I'll make that motion.
Motion. Okay, motion by Councilmember Boland, second by Councilmember Hendricks. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Kearns,
Yes.
Councilmember Bolin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dannenberger,
Yes.
Councilmember Becker,
Yes.
Councilmember Hendricks,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Crumpler.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. And council is entering executive session per section 2C1 of 5 ILCS 120 personnel to discuss the compensation of city manager Okay. All right, can I have a motion to return to open session and adjourn for the meeting? Is it ready? Okay,
I'll move we return to open session.
okay. Is there a second and adjourn for the
And
meeting?
adjourn.
Yeah,
Second.
okay, second by Councilmember Hendricks. And roll
Council-
call?
Councilmember Kearns.
Yes.
Councilmember Bolin.
Yes.
Councilmember Dannenberger.
Yes.
Councilmember Becker.
Yes.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward. Aye. Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Councilmember Crumpler.
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned.